Hi, and welcome to At the Movies with Adam Ross. On today's episode, I'll be reviewing Pain and Gain, a movie that you should flex your cinematic muscles and go and check out. No, actually, look, this movie is pretty interesting for a couple of reasons. One, because it's directed by Michael Bay, who is probably the most critically hated director on the planet, but it's also about gym head culture, about meatheads, and so it's interesting that is this going to be the dumbest film of all time? People have been asking. And not really. Elements of this movie are moronic, mainly the characters and mainly their behaviour. So this movie stars Mark Wahlberg as Daniel Lugo, a down-on-his-luck personal trainer who's just trying to live the American dream. And instead of earning it, he decides that he can steal it. So he decides, with the help of two of his idiotic mates, played by The Rock and Anthony Mackie, that he's going to rob some of his more well-off clients in a extortion deal that goes horribly, horribly wrong. Now, this movie is, I would call this movie a toxic noir. It's kind of like this garish, horrible, over-caffeinated movie that's kind of like Tony Scott's Domino that came out a couple of years ago. It throws everything at the screen, like people snorting coke, freeze frames, and then it'll say the characters' behavior or their parole record, things like that. There's even sequences in this movie where it freezes and says this is still a true story, which it is supposedly based on a true story. Some articles that were written in the Miami New Times about these guys, and so if you look up the history, you'll spoil the whole plot of the movie. But if you watch it, look, it's a pretty entertaining movie, even though it tonally is all over the place. Sometimes it's a satire, and a pretty sharp one at that, about the dumb gym culture, which I know all about. And this is, but then other times it slides way out of satire and just goes into misogyny and dumb places. Like Michael Bay's been accused of treating his women as little more than set pieces on a lot of his movies. And in this, he zooms in on asses. There's about 10 moments in this movie that are on the nose that just go too far. You can have a pretty edgy satire, but when you're jiggling the breast of a dead woman, to check her implants, like that's going maybe a little bit too far. Or zooming in on the Star of David of a Jewish character's necklace to imply that they're wealthy, there's a few bits in this, and I thought, this dude's out of control. This is his lowest budget movie since he started, and he did Bad Boys, over almost like about 20 years ago. And I'd argue that this is probably one of his best films, which isn't saying much considering he's responsible for the Transformers trilogy, the antithesis of the Lord of the Rings, maybe the worst modern trilogy of films. So, look, it's a downgrade in terms of budget, but it's still got his style. It's really in your face. And it's got some good performances. The Rock is awesome in this movie. And he's been waiting for a good vehicle to show his comedic range, and he's really funny as this ex-con that can't keep his nose clean and is hanging out with strippers and does lines of blow and then does incline chest press. So, look, if you're into the gym, you'll probably be interested in this movie like I was. And if you hate Michael Bay, you're probably interested in this movie as well to see how bad it is. So it's it's not a perfect film, but it is pretty damn entertaining. It's like Scorsese light. Like Michael Bay is trying to make this true crime story but he doesn't sympathize with any of his characters, and they're all pieces of shit at the end of the day. So it's hard to take away what is he trying to actually say with this movie. So look, you'll enjoy it while you're in there, but by the time you've gotten to the car park, you've probably forgotten about these characters. So look, I'd give this one 3 stars or 3 bicep flexes out of 5.